I can't believe it's 10 years.
It amazes me that it's been 10 years already.
You just never quite know what you're going to face in every location. The scope of work's different, airports are different, people are different.
It's fun looking back to see the growth of not just the cities, but the employees there.
To see that division year over year grow, 4 or 5 managers to 6 or 7, all of a sudden 8 or 9, and then a dozen, not to mention the changes that the airlines go through.
It doesn't feel like 10 years at all. It feels like yesterday. And I feel like we still have a lot of work to do.
The atmosphere is a great company, and everybody you work with is like your family away from home, so it's really pretty nice.
Well, I think the West Division adds a lot to Piedmont Ground Handling because originally Piedmont was just East Coast, both the airline and the ground handling aspect. I think the farthest west we went was XNA.
The airline was much smaller back in 2011.
And a good portion of the handling that we did on a daily basis was for Piedmont Airlines.
But in 2010, we started to hear a lot of rumblings about picking up additional cities.
Piedmont Ground Handling over the years had really focused on trying to be ready when opportunities came along. And then if you fast forward into, again, the 2008 period where the industry was looking for ways to consolidate, ways to increase efficiencies, that opportunity came up again. And so we were asked to put together a bid package.
So our first foray into the West was a group of stations, Omaha, Long Beach, and San Antonio.
We were already recognizing opportunities beyond those initial stations. Piedmont Ground Handling was asked to oversee Anchorage. We all chuckled and it was like, okay.
Everybody was like, we're going to Alaska. What is this going to bring for Piedmont in the future? And that's when the West became part of Piedmont.
Looking at the hub operation in Phoenix, that's really where that came from, that there needed to be a West Division and that it needed to be resourced and equipped and built in a way that it could expand.
It was exciting. You want to know my first impression? I was excited.
Cheryl moved to Phoenix as our first regional out there. John went as our first division director. And that became the core. Those two really became the core leadership team.
That whole time frame is a bit of a whirlwind, obviously. All of our support was out east, right? So our ground equipment support, our human resources, our training, all of that was out east. You're looking at 11 field cities and a hub, so all of those pieces had to come together in order to help us be successful.
Once the announcement and the decisions were made, we wanted to move as quickly as we could, and yet at the same time, you have to have a sufficient amount of time to put the structures in place you need. But we did try to make it a relatively aggressive timeline, and I think that turned out for the good.
We couldn't stop the airline to do this. The airline had to keep flying. So, some of the transitions were early in the morning. There was a few that were at the end of the day. There were some, as I mentioned in Phoenix, we cut over at midnight on April 6th.
So Phoenix was April 6th, and then we followed that with the 4 field cities the following week. Monday, I think it was the 12th, was Yuma on April 12th, Flagstaff April 13th, Fresno April 14th, Durango April 15th.
The quicker you can go from the announcement to the actual implementation, the better in a lot of ways for the people involved, because that period in between creates a lot of uncertainty.
You need to have enough people to work the operation. Certainly there was a great pool already here from the former ground handler, right?
I want to say at the end of 2010, we were told that a new vendor was going to be coming in.
And as Piedmont leadership at the time came through and started introducing themselves to us, and it quickly subsided that feeling of, oh no, I'm not going to have a job, as in, oh, what does the future hold?
And we made it very clear to those folks that we wanted them to come be a part of us if they had interest to do so.
We were immediately felt like we were part of their family, from communication with calls to their in-station visits, the smiles, the fact that they used our names when they would communicate with us, all the way from the top down.
We were fortunate in that in almost every city, we retained the GM that was there with the former ground handler, which certainly helped.
You know, we all bring something different to the table with the environment we come from.
Group 2 customers are welcome to board flight 2957 to Los Angeles.
You know, we really had to look at the climate and be prepared for it.
One of the biggest things with the West is it's so spread out.
There was just no concept of the geography that we were going into at the time. When we went to order a glycol for Flagstaff so that they could de-ice, the response we got back from purchasing was, they're in Arizona, what do they need to de-ice for?
I mean, when you're working in multiple days of 115, 118 degrees.
We've had, over the 13 years I've been in this industry here in Phoenix, they've seen a wide variety of individuals come through this airport that they can work through a summer. It's something you can get used to.
And they do a very good job safely in that type of weather.
There was a lot of behind the scenes going on. GSC support had to get the materials, the ground equipment out there. And they were transporting it from all over. They were taking from Charlotte and Philly, so it was going cross country as far as the ground support equipment.
Not to mention little things that you just don't even think of, like, you know, do they have enough wands? Do they have enough radios? Do they have 5 buckets at every gate? Every little thing had to be looked at.
I was the first Piedmont class here, and so it was a little different from some of the agents that transferred from the other airline.
Miss Weaver will tell you that she didn't have a whole lot to do with it, but honestly, her and her team, I mean, it was huge. They set up a new West training office out here. It was critical for us, right, to make sure that we had people trained to perform their job function when we did the startup.
The days were long, the pace was fast, but it was an exciting time. And we were really at that point, when we started getting down to the final week, there was an energy, there was an excitement.
Most times we take over the station at midnight, so, you know, that's why they say, you know, midnight on the 6th, because we take over at midnight, and so you have just those few hours to prep.
Cheryl Smith was running on Starbucks, which she still runs on to a large degree.
I love transition Cheryl. She's one of my favorite people. She gets it done.
I literally flew from city to city, transitioned, and went to the next one.
So when the official time came to cross over and it was a full, like, 24-hour period where everybody was on shift, who volunteered.
There's just little, I guess, coping mechanisms to help you get through transitions because they're tough. They are a lot of extremely long hours and a lot of work by a lot of people to make them happen.
You have 2 different companies coming together. We're all supposed to be teammates, and I think it took a couple days for us to understand the, you know, merge between the two, but it only took a couple weeks till we picked up the pieces, understood, you know, what good qualities from one airline, great qualities from the other airline, and how we can make the best team ever out of both sides.
We had such a large transition of work, and it was like it never even happened, which is exactly what you want to see when you're doing a transition, is just to move seamlessly from one ground handler to the next. And then we had a couple weeks, and we did 7 more that were oversight. September, October timeframe, we were awarded Oakland and Orange County, and so we opened both of those on the same day, which was January of 2012.
It was extremely difficult to prepare for that. One, because Oakland and Orange County were going to be the first predominantly mainline aircraft stations for Piedmont at the time, and let alone the West Division.
The interesting thing with Orange County is there weren't really many people that came over, like myself, from mainline. We had maybe 6 or 7 people, but aside from that, we were completely green.
Since we couldn't have any exposure to that type of aircraft up until the cutover date, there was a lot of surprise, I guess is a good way to put it, on day one when they actually saw the size of the aircraft.
Yeah, you know, it was unlike anything else I've ever experienced there. I mean, just the team, the camaraderie, and the vibe that we had there, that family culture, you know, that is Piedmont, was just amazing. And it's just one of those things where you look back and you're like, gosh, did I take that for granted? Because you never know when you're going to get something like that again. I think the thing for me, though, is I just like seeing the continuous growth. You know, a lot of cities popping up, a lot of opportunities for us out west to grow. Because when I first came on, we had, gosh, I want to say it was eight cities. So, you know, between that time and now, where we are, I mean, just seeing those stations pop up and being a part of those transitions that we were just talking about, that was exciting.
Once Piedmont got their stabilization here in Phoenix, there was no wasted time. They were, all right, we've got the ground handling portion handled out. Now let's take over everything else. And that is what they did. If they couldn't take something over, they created something. And what they created was what we call now the provisioning department. So they took that tiny little commissary from being 2 Toyota little pickups to now a full-fledged multi-section operation.
We're the only hub in Piedmont Airlines that handles provisioning, and we're super proud of the work that that team does.
It is massed from the old days of maybe 5 people per shift to now provisioning will run, between cleaning, catering, and the warehouse, you potentially running 60 people per shift. So 120 people per day.
And then most recently was the BSO piece, and that was 2019, October of 2019. They are the biggest BSO that we run in Piedmont, and they knock it out of the park every month.
Some good milestones, some positive accomplishments for the team out there, and so very proud of them as we celebrate their 10-year anniversary.
I think the transitions went as well or better than expected.
One of the neatest things is watching people that I had alongside me as gate agents then go on to be managers and go up into management, and that they brought the neatest relationship because they came from us.
As a leader, we should be focused on often, and that is creating opportunities for people who want to work, who want to invest themselves, creating opportunities for them to better themselves, better their company, better their families by the work they're doing.
The opportunities are endless, not only just for the West, but for the company itself, right? We work for an outstanding company, and I have many examples that I can show them of people that have started from the ramp and have worked their way up, including myself.
Going out west just opened up so many doors for Piedmont.
The future is bright. I mean, I was walking the concourse today, and we are at such a high load factor, and I'm watching my gate agents put passengers on the aircraft with smiles on their faces. And when I'm talking to them, they're talking about how exciting it is to see us back where we were before. We have 550 new people here who are excited to see the growth.
And I think some of the things that we learned in the expansion, the West expansion with the ground team, could be applied to any part of the Piedmont organization.
If we can duplicate something of that nature in the next 10 years, I mean, come on, who else is going to do that?
Phoenix will always be in my heart. It was probably one of the biggest proud moments I've had.
It's quite astonishing. To be honest, even the last year, I can't even figure out where the last year went, but it's flown by. We've had so much growth and we've had so much opportunity over the last 10 years. And I look back and I'm like, I can't believe that was 10 years ago. You try and look at people you've been working with for 10 years and you're like, I can't believe we've been a family for 10 years.